Today, we're going to focus mainly on tools you're going to need to plan or manage a late 2020 or early 2021 event, given the uncertainty the pandemic has created within our industry. So I'm just going to start off with a few questions that I got beforehand. We'll just kind of talk through them. So the first question I got was, what are the best practices for canceling or making the decision to cancel? When it comes to making the decision to cancel, we don't offer any general recommendations. We advise that you follow local and state official guidelines for social distancing and mass gatherings. That can vary based off of the region you're in. If you are worried about how your artists feel about it, we really recommend surveying them through, an email, through a Google form, something like that, so that you can get a feeling for how they're feeling about possibly attending an event in late 2020 or maybe early 2021. In terms of best practices, once you have decided to cancel, we recommend the following, and we have also listed a step-by-step on our main site. If you go to our homepage, ZAPPlication.org, if you go to the blog, and you go to resources for festival administrators, and we have an updating your canceled or postponed event, a checklist. So you can use it as a checklist for when you're canceling your event. But in basics, we recommend contacting ZAPP and your artist to notify everyone of the cancellation, refunding any products in which the artist did not receive the product or service they paid for. If you can't afford to refund product, please communicate to your artist why you cannot and why the percentage, if you're offering a percentage of the refund, is what it is. That type of thing can offer you a lot of goodwill between you and your artist as you progress through a cancellation or postponement. We recommend staying in communication with your artist throughout the process. Consistent and transparent communication is going to be key. The second question I got was, we need to reactivate 2021, but we must keep 2020 active. In a general sense, we're not going to be able to have two events open at the same time in the majority of cases. However, artists will still be able to view 2020 applications and products purchased if the event is archived and your 2021 event is up. If you have a special circumstance and you want to talk it out with us, please email us at the email listed in the chat, which is zaphelp@westaff.org, and we can look into the specifics regarding your case and hopefully give you a little bit more of a custom response there. I also got a question on what has been the response from artists who have participated in virtual events. This has been a pretty mixed area, we'd say. There are artists who have found a lot of value in a virtual event because they're being introduced to a new mailing list, but in general, they're still seen as less successful than an in-person event because there's not as many impulse buys. There's not that same chance to connect that you would have at an in-person event. If you're interested in putting on a virtual event, we'd also say you can contact your artist to see what the interest would be and what the perceived value would be for them should you do that. And you might just want to consider keeping the fees pretty low around that if you're testing out a virtual platform and the costs associated for you are relatively low. The next question was, how do I set up next year's event and move artists from this year's canceled event over to next year's event? I got this question twice, and we get this question on a really often basis. This isn't actually something ZAPP can do because of the way applications work. So when an artist applies to your event, they have to accept your legal agreement, and the legal agreement is one of those things that can't be changed. When it comes to, say, postponing an event, there's a little bit more wiggle room because it's still happening in the same year. It's still technically the same event. Because a 2021 show would not technically be the same event, but would be your event happening in 2021, you're going to need a whole new application there and a whole new place where artists can resubmit their applications, re-accept that legal agreement. But you can create a coupon code for 100% off your jury fee. So if you want to do that, it's going to be under events, in coupons. You'll want to select your show if you don't already have it selected. And then you can go ahead and create a coupon code specifically for that. So in this case, this might be 2020 invited artists. And the coupon code would be 100%. Maximum uses is the number of artists that you are giving that coupon code to. So say you have 200 max artists, the code could be free 2020. And then you'll want to make sure your start and end dates reflect whatever the start and end dates are of your new 2021 application. You might change that to 2021. You want to make sure it's active. Nothing works if it's not active. And then you can associate it to any products necessary. So if you also are selling booth products and you want to make those booth products free for your artists, you could assign it to multiple at once so that they can use the same coupon code. As soon as they come in, you could see that they use that coupon code and you could move them to the exempt from jury status where they could then purchase a booth. That's going to be particularly helpful if you do have a situation where you are rolling over only a portion of your artists and still need to fill a couple more slots. If you're interested in that, we do have a webinar on managing canceled and postponed events that goes into the whole coupon process and managing 2021 events. If your 2020 event was canceled, you can find it by going to the Help Center and clicking on Watch Past Webinars. And we uploaded it pretty fast after it was recorded, so it is up there and you can watch it at any time. My last question is, can you address the issue of application fee versus jury fee and whether or not you should refund them? Our general position when it comes to application and jury fees is that if the service for that fee, be it a jury selection process or just general administrative work, was received, then there's no necessary need for you to refund the product, but it's definitely a nice gesture if your organization is able to. In the majority of cases, we're not seeing it expected, particularly if your jury has taken place. If your jury has taken place, then the service for that fee has definitely been received. We are seeing a little bit more variability with events that have not had a jury, and some of those are refunding their application fees because for them, the jury fee, which was for a jury, never took place. And a lot of those people are also offering coupon codes for the next year if they don't want to refund their jury fee. In general, on ZAPP side, we're mostly encouraging events to return booth fees because that's kind of where we're seeing the main sort of, yes, I want the product refunded from artists. That's kind of the bigger fee that we run into issues with if it's not being refunded. So the first thing we're going to talk about is adapting deadlines. This is particularly useful if you're reopening your application, if you're changing your application deadlines, things like that. In general, if you are changing your application deadlines, what we really recommend doing is reaching out to artists and the artists that have already applied and explaining the process to them, particularly because a lot of the application deadlines, when they're being extended, are also going to affect the notification date. They're going to affect the jury. So telling your artists who are already in received what is happening can be really useful in continuing to build that consistent communication with them. Particularly right now because a lot of people are feeling unsure about the fees that they're giving to events. To extend your application deadline, all you're going to need to do is change this date here. You don't necessarily need to notify ZAPP, though if you have any questions, you are welcome to do so. But that's one deadline you can change at your will. If you're hosting sort of multiple rounds of applications, you might consider changing both your accept applications date and your application deadline just to make it really clear. You could then, within your general information, list multiple rounds of applications. Say round 1 of applications was open from, say, January to March. We're opening round 2 from June to August, and you'll be juried separately or they'll be juried together. It kind of depends on how you're going to manage that, and we're going to talk about multiple rounds of jurying in the second section. The other thing is, if you are reopening your application, our general recommendations for doing that is to update your event prospectus with more information. Check it for incorrect dates. A really easy way to do this is just kind of a general Mac PC thing you can do is either Command F or Control F if you're on a PC and just search for your past dates. So we do this when we check your application before we publish it on our site, just to make sure you don't have any past dates in there, but you can do it with your old application dates just to make sure it's not in there anywhere. If you have old dates in your legal agreement and your event is published on ZAPP, just shoot us a quick email. In all likelihood, we'll be able to update those dates for you because we understand that things are definitely changing right now. And if you include dates in your legal agreement, they may no longer be correct. I also wanted to point out that we have a new feature specifically for application deadlines. So we have an early bird or a late fee that is part of the jury fee. So you no longer need to go in and change the jury fee if you're entering late fee area or early bird area. All you need to do is come into the product editor, click the view and update fees, and then toggle on which fee you would like. Choose the cost and choose the start and end dates. The start date will automatically populate with the first date of your application being open if you're turning on an early bird fee. The late fee will automatically populate with your application end date if you're turning on a late fee. Anything in between these two dates, so I set mine to end May 31st and for the late fee to kick in November. So anything that happens in between those two dates would be your normal jury fee. Artists will be able to see this information. If I search for it, it will be listed on your event information with all the other fees. So it would be listed as the early fee for the jury fee at $5, then the jury fee at $10, and then the late fee at $15. And that's how it'd be listed on ZAPP so that artists could see that information as well. The other thing when you're creating new application open and end dates is you might want to make sure that you're changing your notification date if you had it listed. If you haven't seen this date yet, it's a relatively new enhancement. This is the date you would notify artists of their invitation to your event. And if you're changing your application deadline, it's a chance that this notification date would change as well. So you're welcome to list it here. If you're going to have multiple notification dates, I just uncheck the display box so it's not listed on ZAPP and list your notification dates in your general information so that they can still reference it, but it's actually accurate to the multiple notification dates you might be having. When you're adjusting your accept invitation and purchase deadline, so this is the deadline that allows artists to accept their invitation or reject it and purchase booth products. And so this is another one that's been impacted by postponements and application extensions. And in general, a lot of events are extending their period of time in which they are accepting booth payments. They're allowing artists to purchase them at a later date. So a lot of events need to change this date. This is one of our most missed dates on ZAPP, I would say. We get a lot of questions about it. A lot of artists will reach out, let us know that they can't purchase a product. We see this date is in the past. That's why, and we'll reach out to you to have you change it. The other thing you can do here is that if for whatever reason you are going to allow booth purchases long after your accept invitation date, you can just go ahead and override the purchase deadline in here. And that would allow artists to purchase booth products up until your last day of your event. It's a little risky because they can purchase them really, really quick, but you can also uncheck the override purchase deadline if you're kind of making decisions on a more custom basis and you don't have like a super solid plan as to when you're going to cut off booth purchases because of the whole coronavirus situation. You could override the purchase deadline and then just uncheck this box when you're ready. And then you could set a final deadline. All of that should be communicated to your artist, though, whether you're continuously moving the deadline for purchasing booths or whether you have a specific series of deadlines that you're going to be looking at. If you're postponing your event dates, which are the only other dates that would be postponed on here, you need to contact us immediately because postponements are very different than handling any of these other dates, just because, as I mentioned earlier, things get a little bit messy with legal agreements and just general contract things. So if you're going to move your event dates themselves, please reach out to us so that we can help you and get a little bit more information and get prepared to answer any artist questions that could come up. If you're postponing your event to the same or similar dates in 2021, so say you have a late August show and you're postponing it to 2021 in August, we would consider that a cancellation, not a true postponement. And we would list it as such on ZAPP, and we would not want to move those event dates that far in advance because, again, it just messes with how the system works in the way that artists are applying to an event. If that event moves to a completely new year, that's basically another event, and we're going to need them to reapply and re-accept the legal agreement. We're just going to move on to jurying multiple rounds of applicants. So there are essentially 3 ways that you can jury multiple rounds of applicants, and it kind of depends on what system you're going to be using. If you want to accept applications while you're jurying and you're going to be jurying continuously or using our jury module to select artists continuously throughout that whole process, what you're going to want to do is create a rolling jury, which will have the following settings. So your jury status will be set to in progress, but the high current artist status is going to be set to no throughout the whole jury. This is going to allow artists to apply while your jury is in progress and automatically move into the receive status. The kind of downside of doing this is that any artist that moves to the invited status will not have the option to accept or reject their invitation, but they will be able to see and purchase booth products. So if they can see and purchase booth products within the ZAPP shop, they will automatically move to the confirmed status. If you want to host a rolling jury, but you don't want artists to know the results until the very end, because any artist who can see a booth product will realize that they're invited. But if you want to wait to inform artists of the results till the very end and make sure everybody can buy a booth at the exact same time, what you're going to want to do is go to your product editor and you're going to want to deactivate all of the booth products so that artists won't be able to see them. So similar to coupon codes, if the product isn't enabled, then artists won't be able to see or purchase those products, and then they really won't know what status they're in, even though you're hosting a rolling jury. And then once you're done with your jury and you're ready for all artists to purchase booths, you can change the current jury status to complete, click save, reactivate those booth products, and then artists will be able to purchase them. And that's kind of how you can host a rolling jury that's going to go for the whole period of time. So the next one is multiple rounds, but you're remaining in round one. So this is really useful for events that are, say, jurying on a monthly, weekly, or, bi-monthly basis. You would keep your jury settings the same as if you were hosting a normal jury. So that's going to be current jury status set to in progress, hide current artist status set to yes. You're going to make sure that's saved. And then you're going to jury applicants all at once. So during this time, you will not be able to accept applications for the period of time at which you're jurying. So a lot of events handle this by listing their jurying dates on their event prospectus itself. And they say, during these times, during these hours, you won't be able to submit an application. If you're hosting multiple application deadlines and that's what's informing your jury or your jury pool, then you'll just the application deadline pass. Once your jury is complete, then you'll reopen your application deadline. So the benefit of doing it this way is that any artists who are in this jury pool are going to be judged just within this jury pool. And then once you move them to invited, you will move your jury back to complete, move your hide current artist status to no, and they will be able to purchase booth products, see their status, accept or reject their invitation. And then you can repeat the process as many times as you need, essentially. You'll just want to keep moving your jury status to in progress and your hide current artist status to no. The other thing is that artists won't be able to purchase booths during this period either. So a lot of events, when they're doing this kind of multiple jurying, when everything's always round one and everybody's being juried separately, when they're doing this, they tend to wait until artists have either rejected or accepted their invitation. So they will tell their artists in a certain group that they need to purchase their booth by a certain date, and then they'll reopen the application pool. So that's a very kind of segmented way of doing it. It's totally possible, and that just allows you to stay with a bunch of separate jury pools per application period. Multiple rounds when you're progressing through the rounds is our kind of last way of doing this. This is most useful when you're jurying some applicants more than once. So say you have people that are going to get more than one chance, or you have a big enough jury pool where you're going to need more than one round to eliminate to get your actual pool down to what it needs to be. So if you're doing this, you're going to host a kind of similar process at which your jury status will be in progress. Hide current artist status is set to yes. This is going to prevent anybody from purchasing booths as you're moving people to invited or not invited. This is going to just stop the application process, and this is going to prevent purchasing of booths. And then when you're ready to move from round one to round two, so say now you're in round two of your jury, you're going to move your current round to 2 and click save. What's important about doing it this way is that all of your jurors need to have scored in the previous round before you can move on to round 2. This will open up a new round in which no one has any scores again. You will continue to retain access to those scores in the view score and history section. You can download that as a spreadsheet. You can use it however you would like, but the jurors will no longer see the scores they put in round 1. They can also download their scores now. That's a new feature of the jury side of ZAPP. So they can download their scores for previous rounds and reference it, but those scores are going to be separated from round 2. So multiple rounds of jurying is really used for when you have the same applicants in every round, and just as you're going through your rounds, you are not inviting a portion of artists from that round, then you're rescoring everyone in round 2. And so that's how you can do multiple rounds of jurying in that way, and that's the most conventional way of doing multiple rounds. If you do have any questions or if you run into any snags, feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely get you a written list of instructions to follow if you're interested in that. And we're going to talk a little bit about changing product pricing. So we're seeing a lot of events change their pricing structure throughout this whole pandemic to reduce fees to artists, to put forth some interesting payment plans. You can do all of this from the product editor, so that's where we're going to be. The first one we're seeing most often is reducing application fees. Some people are completely zeroing out application fees. We do require a jury fee of some sort to be in ZAPP. It can absolutely be for $0 if you want to put that as a benefit to your artists. If you do reduce your fee to $0 though, and you're auto deducting your fees from ZAPP, please reach out to us so that we can just talk through what that would look like. because then you might not be collecting revenue from app fees. But we can definitely work with you on that, so just reach out to us. For artists who paid the whole fee before you reduced your fee, so say we reduced it to $0, but some artists had paid $10 the whole time, what you can do for them is you can create maybe a coupon code for 2021, or if you have some sort of booth product or virtual booth product, you can assess sort of the $10 that they paid for their application fee towards that, and you can create a coupon code in events coupons like we went through earlier, and then send it out to them so that it's still an equal chance for them to receive that money back. You can also refund them if you're interested in that, so that can get a little bit more complicated on your end. Sometimes it's just easier to give a coupon code if they're going to be invited and purchasing another product. So for payment plans, what we're seeing used more now is our deposit product. So the deposit product is fairly new. How you use it is you create what is essentially going to be the first phase of your booth products. So say you're splitting your booth payments into 2 sections, and the first payment is very minimal because you're going to give them as much time as possible to pay the final payment. So say the first payment is only $25, you would create the number of deposit products as you would for a booth product. If the deposit is going to vary based off of the type of booth that you have, you'll create multiple different deposit types. But for now, we're just going to assume that it's a flat deposit for every artist. And we're going to say maybe we have 200 artist booth spots. And then you'll create a deposit product. You can also list the date that you want to pay here. You can choose the date for your deposit product to be your accept invitation purchase deadline if you'd like, then override the purchase deadline for your actual booth product if you're interested. But you could say, just for good measure, you could say, hey, this is due, 6/5/2020. You can accept whatever payments you like, customizable to your event, and then you want to make it a deposit product. Click add, make sure that it's active right there. And basically how a deposit product is going to work is an artist can purchase this product, and when they purchase it, they'll automatically be tagged with the tag deposit. If you don't know how to see tags, they're on the event management page. You can click on the status that would be. So in all likelihood, this is going to be either in your invited or your accepted status. And then a tag will appear over here. If you do not see the tag field on your event management page, you just want to click on the table editor, make sure it's selected from here. You can customize the table to see what you want to see. Deposit tags in general will also download into the answers report if you're interested in that. And so you'll be able to see that over here that they paid that deposit. The really cool thing about the deposit product is that it works different from the booth product type. If I, as an artist, purchase a booth product, I'll automatically move to the confirmed status. But if I purchase the deposit type, my status won't change. I'll just get the tag with the word deposit, and then you as an administrator can know that I paid that deposit. You can also pull the income breakdown report to find deposit products that are paid and things like that. You can show tagged artists only. So if you're not using any other tags and all you're doing is using a deposit, then you can pull up the artists who are just paid the deposit by showing tags only, or you can search for the specific tag, which is just deposit. It is not included in the number of tags you can have. So typically you can only have, I believe, 3 tags on each account. But if you have 3 already and you want to create a deposit product, no worries, you can have that as a separate tag, and then it'll bump the number that you can have up. Once you have created the deposit product type and everybody has paid it, say you did that with a standard accept invitation and purchase deadline, and the deadline has now passed, you could then create, your different booth products with the remainder of the fee, which are either overriding the purchase deadline, or you can change your accept invitation and purchase deadline to a later date so that artists can go in and purchase that final product. Once they do so, they will move automatically to confirmed, and then you'll know that that artist has paid both the deposit and the booth product because they'll have the word deposit as a tag, and they'll also have moved automatically to the confirmed status. You'll just want to make sure that those products are active. If you're not moving your accept invitation and purchase deadline, that it's overriding that deadline, or you can move the deadline and that'll work just as well. Overall, though, what we really want to say is that it's helpful to call out any changes and expressly state that they're because of COVID-19, particularly if you are making specific changes due to the coronavirus. This can really help you with some goodwill, because I know a lot of events, when they're making changes that are, say, a more generous refund policy where artists will get their booth fee back, where before maybe the booth fee was only 75% refundable up until a certain date, or they're offering new new plans, or they're reopening their deadlines at a lower fee. Communicating all of that to your artists can really create a lot of goodwill, and we're seeing that some events aren't doing that. So we just recommend, letting them know as much as you can so that you can create that goodwill and you can reassure them that their money is in safe hands. So the other thing about booth products is that I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but they're the fee that we're recommending that events refund the most. And the reason is because artists, if they pay by credit card, can initiate a chargeback through their bank through PayPal. And we try to limit those as much as possible. We try to connect you with those artists so that you can work with them one-on-one. But if you're not refunding the product, that is a possibility. So keeping your artist in the loop the whole time, so that they know if you're not refunding the product, or so that they know that you will be refunding the products if so, can really help alleviate any of the stress around booth products and purchasing them, particularly if you have a late 2020 or early 2021 event where artists may be still a little hesitant about attending events, and we're all a little bit unsure about what the status is going to be. Feel free to reach out to us at ZAPPhelp@weststaff.org. We're happy to help however we can, and thanks for joining us.